Hello, my friends. Today I'm back in New Zealand and in my friend Rolly Munro's workshop. We are going to be doing more videos for the YouTube channel. You're welcome to follow the link below, and I'm sure you'll learn some more stuff. Hello. So yeah, welcome to our channel. Roddy.
Bonjour.
Good to be back, mate.
Yeah.
So, I'm a new user of your tools. I've purchased whichever tool, doesn't really matter, but between the Wundercutt and the Munro Mega, I've taken it out the box. What do I have to do before I can start turning?
And typically, I've set them to a minimal cut. The actual cutter setting, depth gauge setting, is under a 0.5 millimeter set, so that will be very usable.
After I've taken off the depth limiter and sharpened it, and you can watch that video on the channel as well. That's one of the first videos that Rolly and I made. How do I reset the limiter?
Hold the head like this, and you place the depth gauge in the slot in the top of the anvil above the cutter, and then with the thumb hold it in place and then get the adjustment. Now 0.5 millimeter is all that's required, and for those using imperial terms, I can't help you. Now rotate the tool head around so it's at 90 degrees to you, and then put the screw in.
But I noticed that the shaft of the tool has about a, what is that?
12 degrees.
Phew, I was going to say 30, shows you what I know.
No, it's 12 degrees. The cutter's 12 degrees. This is a 12 degree offset. So the idea is that you're working perpendicular to the anvil plane, not the base plane. Allen key in here, and out. Each side of the depth gauge is squeezed. The reason for that is that it lines the depth gauge up with the cutter. So if you squeeze it by the cheeks like this and then relax it, you can actually relaxing the screw, and then you can actually feel the depth gauge moving, then pinch it tight again and stroke like this right round the cutter and see if it's biting. If it feels as though it's biting your finger, then time to test it. Now there we go, see that's cutting here.
And there you can see it's an actual shaving. We're not scraping, we're cutting the wood.
Yeah, so it's still a little bit light on this left hand side, so again I can adjust it some more. And because the tool's upside down, it's the opposite to the way you think it should be. So again, just easing the screw and then tightening it. Tiny, you can actually feel the cutter move, the depth gauge moving. So again, big difference.
Yeah, that shaving is probably twice the size of the previous one.
And these are microns that we're dealing with, so a lot of the time it's actually easier to feel it and see what you're doing. And so if we look at the profile, you should see just a little bit of cutter sticking out the edge there.
Yes.
So when we adjust the tool, what we're doing is adjusting the shaving. That's what we're doing. The shaving governs the weight of the cut. In other words, the load on the user, and the load on the lathe, and the load on the workpiece. See that little bit of lip there? That's the cutting edge there. And because of the clearance between the cutting edge and the depth gauge trailing edge, so the clearance between here, the cutting edge, the leading edge of the cutter, and the trailing edge of the depth gauge, there's a gap. It's about the thickness of a fingernail. And because we're talking about such fine adjustments, it's very hard to read that clearance, the amount of protrusion, the protrusion of the cutting edge beyond the depth gauge, and 0.5 millimeter is quite difficult to spot quite often. I'm just going to rotate it slowly.
There we go.
You can just see it, and I'm going to just quietly have a scratch at it. You can see it working there. And if you can't rotate the wood manually, that means that it's not going to turn well. So if it stalls a piece of wood, then you're putting too much load on the cutter. And if it just skates across without doing anything, then it's obviously not enough. The way the tool's controlled is between the depth gauge bevel, which is that top edge, so that you're presenting the cutter with the depth gauge is rubbing the piece of wood, and then you're gradually bringing the cutting edge up into the cut, and you can see it just adjusting here. This is the way I use the tool. Rather than fiddling around adjusting the tool all the time, I just use the rotation of the bevel, just the same way as you'd use a gouge, except the other way up. So I can got the bottom bevel, which is the cutter itself, and the top bevel. But I always present the top bevel first. And that means there's a smooth transition between not cutting and cutting. So we're just going to flick there, see? So it's top bevel, then bottom bevel, and it just comes up into the cut. So that's a light cut. As I lift the tool up,
I've had several people ask me about inserting a piece of paper or a very thin piece of cardboard like a playing card to set this. And if you search on the internet on how to adjust this, you will find results that say this is the way to do it.
The original mini tool, because it was such a tiny gap and the cutter was so tiny, I originally supplied the tool with a little piece of styrene card, which we'd slip in behind the cutter and the depth gauge, and it would set it. That would be the rule of thumb setting, but nowadays I don't do it. It's not necessary. With the Mega and the Wundercutt 10, you just don't need that. To adjust it is, one, I've designed a little mechanism here to make it easy for people to create that bias. Is that showing? But by turning it left and right, you can move the cutter left and right quite accurately. So that looking down at the cutter, I've got about 1/4 millimeter showing here. Now if I want to go back, I can just push it back like that. See that? And we've gone to almost 1 millimeter there, which is way too much. So what we can do is we can use this mechanism here and just wiggle it, and you can adjust it by just moving it back and forth. See that? So we're at about 1/4 millimeter there, and if I want to make it larger, I just press there and then pull back. You can actually see the movement. So then once I've set it at finger pressure, and I can then put holding the depth gauge down with my thumb, I can flip it over, stick this Allen key in here, and tighten. Simple. To see whether it's workable or not, I usually keep a scrap of wood handy and then just drag it through the cut like that. Now, if I want a reasonable weight of cut, then I want it to pull through reasonably easily. This is a fairly hard wood, but I don't want it to stall, but I don't want it to be not doing anything at all. So that's my rule of thumb. If it can pull through the wood like that, then it's useful.
One of the biggest fears of woodturners are catches, especially new woodturners. How do we get catches and how do we prevent catches using your tools?
Okay, the tool was developed with the depth gauge on it to prevent catches. Originally, when I first started doing hollow work, I used a hook tool. Now a hook tool is fine on clean, clear wood, and unguarded cut is fine where you can see what you're doing and the wood is free of knots. This tool was designed with that gauge on it, so we govern the thickness of cut. So we're talking about a shaving that's around about 2/3 of a millimeter thick on this particular case. So by governing the weight of this shaving, we can govern the weight of the cut. And it'll help you ride through knotty woods and imperfections in the wood. By opening the depth gauge, you get a more aggressive cut. So an aggressive cut would be 1 millimeter of depth gauge cutter clearance here, just here. Now, typically I would use myself For even heavy cutting, I'll use 0.5 millimeter. And I won't adjust the tool. It'll be just controlled by the way the bottom bevel and the top bevel work together. So if you want to take a finer cut, free of catches, but you want to take a very fine cut without adjusting the tool is presented nose down, and you're rubbing the workpiece with the front of the depth gauge. And then you're levering off that and allowing the cutter to do its work. Now if I lift it right up into its most efficient position, which is around about 90 degrees or 180 degrees or level, that's its most efficient place. Anything above it will stop cutting. The tool is always presented nose down and then lifted into the cut. That'll give you a nice smooth transition between no cut and to its most efficient cut, but you can choose any point. So between, I think you can start at about 12 degrees below and up to 0 degrees. So it's only a small window. So when I'm testing it, I'll present the tool here like this, and it's just rubbing, it's not cutting. As I tilt the tool upwards, it'll be more and more aggressive until it's at its most efficient, and you can see here it's starting to work hard, but it won't catch.
Good to know. If you have any questions, please reach out via my website or via the channel, or if you want, contact Rolly. He's always available and we're happy to answer all of your questions.